Well, the podcast link, I've placed them inside of the chat there. So if you're interested, you can go find it on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and I'm sure if whatever app you're using, if you want to just search for it, you could find it there as well. Some people don't like to use Spotify or Apple. They like to have their own little podcast app. So feel free to use those as well. And you said goals, Susan. That was one of your goals before the end of the year to do that. Couldn't have asked for a better segue. Garland, we're going to pass the ball over to you, the baton, and let you take over to talk about something that probably is at top of mind for us throughout the year, but maybe most of all in January.
Definitely, January is that time when we all start thinking about goals. Many of us think of it as New Year's resolutions, and of course, we all know how well New Year's resolutions work, because usually about 2, 3 weeks after our New Year's resolution, it's already done. We aren't using it. We've already fallen off the wagon. Our good resolutions we're going to do for exercise or for all these other great things we were going to do this year just fall apart. So we're going to show you how to make sure that for your goal setting this year that it doesn't fall apart. We're going to give you a process for that. So goal setting, making 2026 your best year ever. And feel free to throw questions at me throughout, either in chat or something, and I'm happy to answer any questions you might have. So. And you've already met me. You don't need that part. Now, the funny thing is I kind of hate goals. So the term goals, because goals were weaponized against me. I used to work in the financial planning area. And if you sold $1 million worth of product this year, they'd go, oh, okay, now we want you to sell 3 million next year, but no increase in marketing budget, no staffing, no more support, just somehow triple your output. Kind of like you weren't working all year, right? So goals has a bit of a negative connotation with me. So for myself, I usually use the phrase outcomes, but because people are used to goals, I'm going to use it here. But if you're like me and you're kind of goal shy, think of the phrase outcome instead, because an outcome is something that you want to achieve that's there instead of being some impossible goal that you just can't seem to reach. So I came up with a formula some years ago with people who would corner me at a party or a networking event. And they'd say, can you give me one thing that's going to have the biggest impact, right? And part of me felt that was kind of unfair because they want my best information explained in a minute or less after 25 years of mastering this for me. And of course, they're not paying anything for it. But the part of me that was empathic, that could see that they really wanted help, decided to come up with something I could explain in 1 minute, but that would transform lives if people were to follow it. And of course, I can expand this into an entire workshop, but I wanted the key principles to be really easy to understand. And it's really just a 3-part process. So the first part is to set your desired outcomes. Choose your critical goals and outcomes. And we're all good at this. We've all set goals. We all have those New Year's resolutions and things like that. Where we fall down is step 2 and step 3. So step 2 is create a step-by-step plan to reach each of those critical goals. And especially where we fall apart, some of us do get as far as planning towards the goal. The third part is where we really fall down. We don't create dedicated time blocks to work on each of those plans for each of those goals. And the time needs to be absolutely sacred that we don't give up for other things. And our biggest, most important goals are usually the things that we say, yeah, when I get to them, like because I have all this other work to do first. And so every day we're killing our dreams because we're not working on the dream goals, the things we really want to do. And don't go crazy with goals. Don't come up with, I have 55 goals I'm going to try to achieve this year, because you're just going to overwhelm yourself. Start with maybe 3 goals, maybe 3 business or work goals, maybe 3 personal goals. and choose some goals that will be life changing and are going to have that biggest impact when you do it. You can always add more goals later. Once you get a few goals dialed in, working great, you're proceeding well. If you want to add another goal or two, go ahead. But you want to get your goal achieving system in place first with just a few to work on. And many people I know are overwhelmed because they just take on way too much. So, and I'm sure has this happened in his coaching as well, that sometimes you just have to stop these people who say yes to everything and have them rein it in a bit. What's the really critical, important ones? So there can be work and career goals. For example, improving your customer satisfaction, maybe mastering some of your software, your project management systems, get a better understanding of your target audience. Maybe there's some professional development. You want to attend a couple of industry conferences to network, to connect with people, to learn. Maybe you want to take some online courses. Maybe you need a new technical skill. If you're working for other people, maybe how can I get promoted? How can my career advance? Talk over your career path with your manager. How can I network within my industry? And if you're an entrepreneur, which I think most of us are here, then there's tons of great goals you can do for business and entrepreneurship. You might have a side business idea of becoming a writer. You're going to start a consulting practice to add to what you do. Maybe you're going to launch an online course. Maybe you're going to create some digital products. Maybe you're just going to expand your existing business, enter some new markets, develop some more partnerships, or maybe it's time to scale. You're going, okay, I'm doing good now, but I need to 10x everything I'm doing. So what do my systems look like when I have 10 times the clients? And if that panics you, then it's time to look at your underlying systems for how you're going to scale. You might have some personal health and fitness goals, and these are the big ones that we do with your New Year's resolutions. Nutrition. I'm going to eat better. I'm going to cook better. More nutritious meals. Or I'm going to exercise every day. Or maybe I want to do 20 minutes of daily exercise. Or I'm going to take a 30-minute walk at lunch. I want to be more fit. Or maybe you've got some spiritual wellness goals. Maybe you want to attend a group. To feel more connected to the universe and the world around you. Maybe you want to learn meditation so that you've got some inner peace and clarity. Or maybe you want to do some creative explorations or take an art class. My wife has gotten into paint pouring lately, which is really fun because so I'm really not artistic. My wife's more artistic than me, but I'm really not artistic. But I like paint pouring because it's abstract. It doesn't have to look like anything when I'm done. So I can say, look, I made art instead of, is that a tree or a pig? If somebody's going to look at my normal drawing, my normal painting. So, and we all need this creative outlet, whatever it is. It could be photography, could be making music, could be painting, or could be coming up with poetry. Like it could be any of these things. You might have some relationship and family goals. Maybe you want to schedule a couple of date nights a month or cook one romantic dinner together monthly. Maybe you want to host a quarterly family open house to build more family relationships. Monthly board game nights. My granddaughter loves to play board games, but her family doesn't play board games, so she does board game nights with grandma and grandpa over here, right? So, which is a great thing to do. And friendships. How many times have you talked to a friend? And so, when's the last time we talked? 3 years ago, 5 years ago? Like, how many of us have let our friends drop off? So call a different friend for coffee or lunch once a month, just to maintain those relationships. Simple to do, but something most of us just aren't doing. So maybe you've got some community and service goals. Maybe you want to dedicate a couple of hours a week to volunteer at a local nonprofit. Maybe you want to become involved in local politics. We could use some really good politicians out there. So if any of you want to run for office, let us know so we can help, right? We're happy to see more people get involved in those kind of local community initiatives or politics. So all of these could be great goals, and you could set them. Now, most of you have probably heard of the SMART goal setting process, and SMART just is an acronym for specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time bound. And all it really is you're taking a vague aspiration and you're just making it a little bit more specific. So specific means instead of just make more money, you want to increase your income by 20%, or you want to increase your savings by $10,000. Something specific. Measurable just means, how am I going to track that? How do I know when I've made it to my goal? And you can track either the numbers or just measure the activities that build towards it. Achievable. So we'll get these crazy pie in the sky goals where I'm going to go from, $100,000 this year to 10 million. Well, maybe if you've got the right plan or the right background or something, but it's not that easy to do. So you want to choose a goal that will push you, but aren't so way out of whack, you're just going to give up. And relevant, the goals need to be worthwhile and important to you. And so often maybe a lot more money isn't what's important. Maybe it's more connections. Maybe it's something else, more spiritual well-being. So in these cases, you want, to have to those things that are really relevant to you. And time bound is just giving yourself a due date. I'm going to do this by April 30th, 2026, or by December 31st, 2026. As Susan said, she got the podcast just under the wire. So if her goal was by December 31st, 2026, then she made her goal. If her goal was by June, 2025, then it wouldn't, she would have been late, but she still would have got the goal. So, and I've already used an example, but you might have a vague goal. I want to become a writer. It's vague. Are you going to write books, articles, poetry? Are you successful after writing one paragraph, or do you need to write 5 books, right? So a smart goal might be to publish one fiction book by the end of 2026. It's specific, the type of book, measurable, achievable, realistic timeline, relevant if writing matters to you, and time bound because you've given it a due date. So. Now, for each of these goals you want, and again, I suggest maybe only 2 or 3 in work or business, 2 or 3 in personal, or personal. And I know I've given you more than that, but I'm just trying to show some examples. Now you would want a detailed action plan with specific steps, timelines, and milestones. And a large goal, writing a book sounds like a lot, right? Like it sounds huge, but you can easily break that down into smaller parts. So as with any of this, and for the example of publishing a book, you might say, okay, I'm going to start by setting aside 5 hours per week for writing, and I'm going to choose a genre and a story idea by January 31st. That's not that hard to do, okay? Just to set up a time block and figure out, do I want to start with my science fiction story? Do I want to start with my fantasy? Do I want to start with my romance? Which one or my nonfiction? Which one do I want to start with, right? And so just set a couple of weeks and do that. Then maybe there's a kind of a starting writing phase. But in that phase, you're going to start off with a story outline and writing a few character profiles. So again, book sounds big, 75,000 words maybe, but instead you go, oh, I'm just doing bullet points for the outline. What's going to happen in the book? And I'm going to write some character profiles so I know what the Scarface man looks like and how he acts, right? In this case. And then, of course, you might have a publishing phase, complete it. I want to take maybe a book publishing workshop or online course and decide, am I going to self-publish this or am I going to look for a traditional publisher? And of course, as with anything you do with in business, you're going to need marketing. So you have to figure out your book marketing plan. And I believe we've got an authors group on grand authors on Grand Connection. So if writing is part of what you want to do, go looking for that. If podcasting is part of what you want to do, go join the Grand Podcasting group. And that's what I love about Grand Connection, is because they've got all these lovely, amazing groups on topics from artificial intelligence to productivity to writing to well-being. It's just amazing. So definitely Grand Connection can help with whatever your goal is going to be. I'm sure there's a group for that. So. Now, tracking your success comes down to that measurement. So how are you going to track it? And if you've got a project management system, just use that. If you're using Xtiles, Todoist, TickTick, it doesn't matter which one you're using. And I'm not going to push you into any particular tool. I never push anybody into a particular software tool. It's just use whichever one you've got that works for you, that just gives you a way to see a list of what you've got to do and track when it's done. If you're working on habits like exercise and things like that, you can use tools. There's lots of trackers on your smartphone. I use the Loop habit tracker, which I find is really easy to use. And then you can tick off, okay, did I get my 2,000 words written this week, or did I do 4 exercise things every week? And it will actually show you your progress towards each of these. And of course, if you're planning on making a lot of money, that was your big goal this year. That's tracked using things like your accounting software or your whatever your invoicing program is, perhaps Google Analytics if you want to drive a lot more traffic to your website. So there's ways to track all of these things in that case. So. And a tracking tip here is if you're going to do exercise, you want to get fit, you want to be healthier. That's kind of a vague one. I mean, yes, you can say, I want to lose 10 pounds, but I had a case where my pants kept falling off of me all the time. And my weight hadn't changed. And I thought, it must be my belt, must be the belt, has the hole has gotten stretched or something. But what I found out when I did go to the store and tried on a pair of pants is I dropped 2 inches on my waist size. But I dropped it without losing weight because of all the exercise I was doing. So it was a good thing, but if I was trying to measure it by weight, that wouldn't work. So tracking success, especially with health and things like that, track how many exercise sessions you did in a week. So if you want to do 4 20-minute exercise sessions in a week, you can track it in a spreadsheet or in one of these habit tracking apps. And then that will make it really easy for you to say, did I make my target in this case? And the health will follow. The health will come. You will feel better because your energy levels will be higher. And you'll find that, walking is much less difficult when you do all of a sudden have to walk a lot more than you expect. So. Your step-by-step plan now needs to be turned into tasks that go into the task management system you live in. So, and this is really important. A lot of people have a task list somewhere, but they don't live in it. They live in their email inbox. They try to remember things in their head. And so if you're working with task management systems, you need to live in them. Doesn't matter which one you use, whether it's a spreadsheet, Google Tasks, Trello, Todoist, TickTick, any of them will work. Okay, just make sure that you're getting those in there, and make sure that when you start your day, you're starting your day by opening up your task management system and saying, oh, okay, what are the tasks that I have to accomplish today? And AI is great for goal planning. I use AI a ton to brainstorm ideas, to take my vague goal and make it smart, make it more specific, to help me create, the detailed steps. You can say, okay, I want to run for office. Can you put a plan together to help me get elected? And AI will give you like a 10-page plan on how to do it, including how to make the connections and everything else. It's just brilliant. It can also identify tools, learning paths, and other resources. So AI is just brilliant for goal planning. I use a ton of different AIs, but 2 of my favorites are Claude and Gemini are both really good for that kind of stuff. So and use your favorites. Like it doesn't matter which one you're using. They're all going to be pretty good at this. And thirdly, and where most of this breaks down badly, if you've been really good up to this point, this is usually where your goals fail, is dedicated time blocks to work on each goal. And these come first before your other work. They have to be set aside before kind of your day-to-day work. And you have to treat them as sacred appointments. This is sacred time to achieve my biggest goal. So when I wrote a book in 6 months one time, and it was because every morning my first 2 hours were spent on the book. That's it. Like I did that every day, made it my first focus. And that was when my energy levels and my discipline were at the highest. And I did the easy work late in the afternoon, the easy stuff like email, because at that point my head's need more coffee, my head's hitting the desk. I'm not ready to do anything complex like writing a nonfiction book. And that's the mistake many of us make. We dive in and work on our email first thing in the morning, and email's usually one of the easiest things to work on. And then maybe 3 or 4 in the afternoon, we're going to work that really difficult task, that massive budget, that huge new marketing plan, and we've got no energy left. We say, oh, I'll start that tomorrow, and then we never start it. So Some bad habits can get in the way of this too. Excessive screen time is a big one. Television screen time is much worse now than it used to be, because it used to be we'd be couch potatoes sitting on the couch watching TV. So now we can say, oh, I didn't watch any TV at all, but I was on my phone all day, or I watched on my computer. I was watching funny cat videos on YouTube, which are really funny, but you need to, rein that in and say, okay, I'm only going to do funny cat videos for 30 minutes or something, or only going to do the fun YouTube stuff for 30 minutes or an hour. And then our whole evening has gone by and we didn't get anything done, especially on some of our personal things that would have to go in the evening. And rule of thumb, if you scan through the list of all the TV shows 2 or 3 times and you're not seeing anything you want to watch, turn the bloody TV off. Similarly, if you've refreshed your YouTube playlist 2 or 3 times and you're like, I'm not getting anything new or exciting, close that browser tab and go do something more fun. Poor diet choices, another big one. And by the way, screen time is something I have to discipline myself on, because it's really easy for me to spend all evening. And I watch really interesting YouTube videos. I mean, I just watched a YouTube video about a plant that's healthier than almost all of the current vegetables we grow now. And you plant it once and it lasts for 15 years. I mean, that's cool stuff. But, I need to cut back on, just not watching all of those in the night. Diet choices. Put some pre-cut vegetables in the fridge and have a rule: whenever you open the fridge, you have to eat 3 of the carrots and celery first before you eat anything else. Gaming, I do like gaming, but I have time boundaries. I play a video game with my son and cousin once a week, because we live further apart. We get together every Sunday and do that. But again, timers. You just need timers for some of these habits that might take too much. So a number of ways to create some productive habits. One of them I really like is habit linking. So you connect a new habit to an existing routine. So for example, after supper, you go to the gym. Before you do dishes, you go to the gym, because you can do dishes later when when your energy level is low and stuff like that. Or take a walk every day at lunch. You're connecting that to lunch or connecting that to after supper, and it's going to make it easier to do that. Again, you can track using habit trackers on your phone. A great way to see what's going on, to see what's happening there. Celebrate, reward yourself with weekly or monthly success when you make those. Celebrate that and focus again on those small changes. The biggest change in my health came when I started taking a walk every day at lunch. That just transformed my health entirely. I switched it now to do after supper, or sometimes I do it at lunch, but I still do it every day. And I did this years ago, and that's had such a huge positive impact on my health. Get support, family and friends. If they're positive. If you've got negative family and friends, then you need to cut those people out of your life. Definitely. Coworkers, people who might share similar goals can provide support in the workplace. Networking groups like this, we're great. I set up some accountability partners with some of the people you meet here. Brainstorming communities. I love working in communities because everybody's so helpful, so supportive, gives you great ideas. And you can also work with mentors or coaches, people like Mike and myself, if you're struggling to keep on track yourself, you can work with us. There's also tons of life coaches in the system. So there's a coach in the system for anything you want to do or learn in Grand Connection, I'm sure. So if you're not sure, ask Susan. I'm sure she can hook you up, or do a search in the directory there. So. And virtual assistants are a great secret weapon, especially in the business world or in the workplace, to be able to get some of the detail work off your plate, so you can focus on those big goals, the high value goals that only you can do in those cases. Admin tasks, data entry, scheduling, bookkeeping. Why is any business owner doing bookkeeping? Honestly, it's not a skill where most of us are good at, and there's tons of bookkeepers out there looking for work. I often recommend bookkeeping is one of the first things to get off your plate. Market research, competitor analysis, product comparisons, content writing, website updates, online marketing. So getting your social media together, graphic design. I suck at graphic design, so I'm happy to pass that off to somebody else, because it's not a skill I have. I'm good at marketing, but not the graphic design. So yeah, tap assistants, tap specialists, like web designers, graphic designers, tap people to take those things off your plate so you have more time. And, also don't think about this for your home life too. A skilled landscaper. So my wife and I lived in a place for a number of years, and we were constantly behind on the landscaping and the yard work. It just didn't ever seem to get better. Pulling weeds all the time, picking berries. It just seemed, honestly, it seemed like more work than enjoyment in our yard. And then finally, we were going to sell it. We had a realtor suggested having a landscaper come in and do some stuff. We had two landscapers come in for about 4 or 5 hours, and it cost us about $600, and it looked amazing. We're going, well, obviously it's not our skill, and I hate kneeling on the ground for long times pulling weeds and stuff, right? So this is definitely something to outsource. So that is what we've talked about today with goal setting. So don't wait for the perfect moment. Start now, choose your 3 goals and start planning. Get that step-by-step plan in place and make sure you're setting aside that dedicated time blocks. You can set aside dedicated time blocks on any calendar. I tend to use Google Calendar. It's really easy to do. You can set up colors for each of your nice goals and block off that time, and it works brilliantly. And let your clients book around your key times instead of only doing these key things when you have time, or try to fit it in a week, because in most cases that's just not going to happen. So, questions?
Love to hear some questions. I'm gonna actually throw something out there for you, Garland, and then we'll get to Danielle. Is there such a thing as having too many goals? Like, what's a sweet spot for people who are like into goal setting where they're going to get diminishing returns? Do you have like an idea around that, especially, for people who really want to achieve?
Yeah, and as I said, I kind of suggested maybe 3 major work goals, maybe 3 personal ones, or maybe, but you don't want to go too much on this, because it's really easy to fall into that, you know, having so many that you just can't keep up with all of them, right? And where's your dedicated time going to come? So it comes back to the time blocking, right? If you're When you're time blocking, how many hours a week are you putting towards those goals? And this is something most of us don't do. We don't actually say what percentage of our week is marketing, what percentage of our week is new product development, what percentage of our week is done with building our existing client relationships. Almost none of you probably have those percentages in place. I'm self-employed, as many of you are. I haven't got a paycheck in 30 years. So if I don't spend 25% of my week on marketing, my income drops significantly. So therefore, believe me, my 25% is sacred time that I'm spending on my marketing goals.
All right, Danielle, go ahead.
Yeah, thanks. And lovely to see Mike and Garland. I My struggle is I do put aside time blocks, but at the moment everything I'm doing is new and I have no idea how long things are going to take. And I try to use that rule that, like, however long you think it's going to take, double it and put aside that amount of time, and it's never enough. So how do you deal with that kind of scope creep? Because at some point you have to do other things. So, like, what do you do?
Yeah, and this happens when everything you're doing is new.
Yeah.
I just took advantage of the lovely, amazing offer that Susan put together from the Productivity Hub for Go High Level. It's a brilliant thing. But now my entire back office system has changed entirely, right? So now when I'm going to set up a new landing page for a webinar, it takes me 3 or 4 times as long. Not because the system isn't good, but because I have to get used to using the system. And I've had my other systems all dialed in for years. So first off, don't beat yourself up that it takes longer. Just understand it's going to take longer, and have that happen. Look for help. Like, look for a YouTube video on how to do this. Okay, like, jump in instead of just trying to figure out yourself. Somebody else has probably already put together a YouTube video on how to do it. And hammer support. Okay, whenever I use any software tools or anything else, I am like their support nightmare. And I do this because I'm pretty good at figuring things out, but if I'm going to bring a client to that software, I want to know the support's great. So I ask support even if I could probably figure it out. I just hammer support because they're much quicker and they get back to me. Ask AI. AI is also great. Like I was trying to figure out how to shoot a video, a screen capture video on my smartphone. I was trying to figure that out, and because I'd never done it on my smartphone, right? And I just asked my AI assistant, and bang, it gave me the answers right there. So ask AI, hammer support, look for videos on how to do it, and consider outsourcing that part of it too. Like if it's a skill you don't need, like if I don't know how many of you are hockey fans, but I use this kind of example. If Wayne Gretzky was one of probably the most amazing hockey player who's ever lived, right? But maybe his tennis game wasn't as good. So if he decided to work on his weaknesses instead of his strengths, it would not have been the same. I mean, I'm sure Wayne was probably a good athlete in anything, but it wouldn't be the same. We wouldn't have had the joy of watching him all those years in hockey because he had a natural talent. So take your natural talent, focus on that, and hire other people to do those other things. Hire somebody else to take over your social media, hire someone else to do your bookkeeping. And then you can spend the extra time in those things that are critical for your business.
How do you say you're Canadian without saying you're Canadian? You use a Wayne Gretzky hockey reference in your.
Yes, you hear the hockey reference at all, right?
Real quick, and Garland, while I'm chiming in here, can you come up with a question that everyone can ponder in the breakout rooms as we get ready to go to a breakout room? I know, Susan, you're going to go in a second here as well. But the other thing, Danielle, is, and this is like a writer's trick as well, is number one, if you are dedicating those time blocks, like say you're doing it over multiple days, keep that in mind as you're going through it, because what we tend to do is we're like, I'm going to try to get it all done in this block, forgetting or either neglecting that you've got it set up consecutively across the whole course of the week. So for me, for example, if I'm learning, like if I have a learning block, let's say, and it goes Monday to Friday and it's like 30 minutes or even an hour, if and this is something Ernest Hemingway used to do as a writer, like when his timer went off, he'd stop mid-sentence, because then he could pick up where he left off last time. Now, I know not everybody can do that, but the point is that it doesn't take him as much. There's less friction when you start to go at it the next time. So if you have more consistent blocks across multiple days, it's kind of easier to pick up where you left off, because there's still that, what Cal Newport would call attention residue, that sticks around, right? So if you're like, for example, if I'm trying to learn how to play guitar, let's say I have a guitar, like if I practice for 2 hours one day of the week and then don't practice the rest of the week, versus doing 20 minutes, or even let's use the Pomodoro, the 25 minutes, 4 days a week, I'm actually going to get better at it quicker because I'm spending more time consistently rather than a big massive chunk of a time, especially when you're starting something new. So yeah, you might need that springboard that you've talked about, but I think once you've got that kind of dialed in, giving yourself like maybe a little less time, multiple days per week, allows you to know, hey, well, there's other room for these other things I need to do. Plus, hey, I left off at the word the, so I know tomorrow I'm going to start with whatever comes after that word when I jump back in. So that's another way. It allows you to give yourself grace along the way, if that's helpful.
That is helpful. Thank you very much.
Pomodoro technique also helps if you're struggling with something where you're finding it difficult, but you say, I only have to work on this for 25 minutes. So, yeah, I'm going to, and again, working with your energy levels, working your hardest thing first thing in the morning, and then reward yourself with the easy stuff later. I'm only going to do 25 minutes, and you'll be astonished how much you'll get done in 25 minutes of full focus, nothing else going on. Like it will just be brilliant. And as Mike says, an hour a day or 30 minutes a day, learning anything, writing your book, playing guitar, your musical instrument, you do just get better. It comes easier and easier over time. So.
Susan, go ahead.
I was going to add, Danielle, for tech changes that you're doing, like the example Garland has is Go High Level. He's quite technical and he loves doing it himself. I found it helpful for me to hire somebody to work with me on it. But the goal of was that she would train me. And so she's creating a folder, and I am learning as I go that I need her less. So she did more at the beginning. And so my budget with it is sort of project based. Okay, this is how much I'm going to budget at the beginning. And then now I've got this ongoing, and it's way less now because I've learned we did the whole migration. That was the most. And then the
Yeah.
learning goes on. She's still there to help me and support me, but I could do some things on my own, what I choose to do. And I'm finding I'm delegating more things anyways, just to free up
Yeah.
more other time.
The other benefit
Yeah, that's
too,
awesome.
of the partnership that Susan has with for the Go High Level provider is they provide you with live support as part of that program, and that's not something that's standard with Go High Level. So that is a huge help that you can have live support right there and ask the question, and they're really quick to come on and help.
So Garland, do you have something you want people to think about? We're going to create 2 breakout rooms. I'm going to put 3 people in each room. Do you have a question or thought that you want people to kind of discuss for a few minutes, where it's going to be a really short period of time because we're getting close to the top, that you want people to kind of ponder and discuss amongst themselves in these breakout rooms?
Yeah, I think needs to be something to do with goals. So pick maybe let's have fun. Let's pick a personal goal, because we're all about the business stuff and we talk about that a lot. But let's pick an unusual personal goal you'd like to achieve, and maybe talk about how you achieve that. So.
All right, I'm gonna open those rooms now. There'll be 3 of you in each room. We'll do that. We'll do it for only a couple of minutes. So take about 60 seconds or so, each of you, to kind of go through that. I know it's not a lot of time, but it's smart, it's specific, it's measurable, it's time bound, all that stuff. All right, I'm gonna open those rooms for you now.